Okay, so not only did I watch all of Girlish Number, but I think it's probably my favorite show of 2016 so far. I had such a great time with it. And before I even really talk about it, I have to talk about Shirobako. Shirobako, came out 2 years ago, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I have a particular soft spot for shows that are about like the workplace or about working on some kind of like passionate artistic endeavors, because that's what my life is. It's what I relate to best. Characters who are passionate about things are easiest for me to relate to. Bakuman's my favorite manga, for instance, etc., etc. And I love Shirobako, and I think it paints a somewhat honest portrait of the struggles of working in the anime industry. But there's something that does bother me about the show that I always wanted there to be another season to address. I would say that it's not a problem that this doesn't happen in season one, but I would love it if there was a season that explored this, which is just the more bitterly cynical side of the anime industry. Because in Shirobako, even though everybody struggles, even though it's such a hard time for everyone, they do still make... They still make it. They still make a great product. They end up making a great anime. Everyone sticks around. No one quits, of the main characters. No, there's no moment of, like everyone's so good-natured. Everyone just wants the best, They're not necessarily achieving the best. The director, he falls behind on storyboards, and he's had productions fall apart before, but it's not because he doesn't intend to do the best work he can. He's just not the most competent, That seems to be the case for a lot of characters in Shirobako. Like, most of the problems are more a result of the environment than the personalities of the people. There's a couple of people who are huge fuck-ups in the show, and they are important, but, they kind of take a back seat. And in the end, what Shirobako wants to say is the reason we all work on anime is because we love anime. We love the idea of making anime. We just want to make a good product. Girlish Number is not about that. If Shirobako is the story of how you get a show like Girls und Panzer, where you get these shows that, yes, are very marketable and very aimed at the audience, but have a lot of heart put into them and are well produced and are, and make you think, like, yeah, this is why people like anime. Girlish Number is about how you get the Asterisk War. It's about how you get a tired, trite, shit fucking light novel adaptation that no one involved cares about, that doesn't help anyone, doesn't further the industry, and is just a way for a bunch of people to fritter away at their jobs and wonder why the fuck they're doing this. And that's why I absolutely love it. Because this is the bitterly cynical take on the anime industry that I've been waiting for since Shirobako. The one that really does push all the way into just making a show that no one cared about. That everyone involved is just not happy that they were involved with. Even in Shirobako, there's the history of the director having made Jiggly Heaven, but you don't get the sense that Jiggly Heaven was bad out of malice. It was bad out of just not being well planned. This series in Girlish Number that they're making is just built out of cynicism. It's built out of exactly the stuff that I'm always saying that the Asterisk War was built out of. That just desire to crank something out just to make a cute girls with swords thing because someone's gonna fucking buy it. That's all that matters. Someone's gotta fucking buy it. And in a lot of the cases, they don't. A lot of, Asterisk War in many ways is even a luckier case, because while that show I don't think was a huge success, at least it had attention and probably, some profit margin. A lot of these shows, these fucking cynical, shitty cash grab shows, don't end up grabbing any cash. And that's the case here as well. So, yeah, I really love that it's this kind of exploration of the industry. And it's all done in a very fun, upbeat way. Where even though the show is a dark comedy, first and foremost, it's mostly a just sort of a cringe comedy in ways, like The Office kind of thing, where it's the fact that the characters are so warped in their mentality and fuck up so badly is it's it's embarrassing to watch, but that's also what's hilarious about it. But it's got a very light, brisk tone. It doesn't, doesn't take this all too seriously. It's presenting this kind of cynicism as just like, oh, this is just the way things are, It's not like this is hopelessly dark, even though it does represent, like, the worst possible way that an anime production could go. Now, going into this show, I was kind of excited to watch it, because all the stuff I'd heard about it sounded like it would definitely be something interesting for me. But I was concerned, because the person who wrote the original light novels this is based on is the same guy who wrote Oregairu, or my teen romantic comedy Snafu, which I famously don't like. I made an hour-long video where I lost my mind while trying to watch it. So I was concerned that, I would have some of the same problems, but really this show fixes all the issues I had with Snafu, because even though this show is also a very cynical, take on the world, but through a comedic lens, it's not about teenagers and teen drama and teen melodrama. It's not about interpersonal conflicts. It's a workplace series, which I like. I have a tendency to much more favor shows that take place in the workplace or are about more adult characters. So that's really nice. I get to watch these characters spend most of their time getting drunk and and wondering how the fuck they ended up here, which is my whole life, so highly relatable for me. The other major thing, I think that what made this show work, and this, I can tell, this had to have been a decision that was, like, actively made on the part of the writer. Like, he had to really, really contemplate if he was going to do this, is that the main character is the girl. Because there is a secretly a light novel main character in this show, and it's her older brother. The main character, Chitose, is a total brat and just a lazy layabout who wants everything to come to her. And her older brother is her manager. And her older brother absolutely looks, acts, talks like the part of the typical light novel protagonist. He's sort of above it all, has a pulled back perspective on everything that's happening, makes lots of sarcastic remarks, is sort of the straight man to Chitose. And it's so easy to imagine a version of this story where he narrates it and where he's constantly commenting on how cynical the industry is and how, oh God, this is what it's like. Yeah, it sure is a bummer working in this industry. And instead, because it's not from his perspective, we understand that he, sees it that way, but it's not presenting the story through that lens. It's presenting the story through the lens of a character who totally fits in with this cynicism, which is Chitose. She's perfect for this world because she just wants lazy cash grab. She just wants to live an easy life and to just win, as she constantly says it, without doing anything. If you can find a way to win on minimal effort, then you've won. And so that's sort of the mindset she has. And it makes her, it's why, like, she's almost like Teflon throughout the series, where no matter what kind of, negative thing happens to this show they're working on, she can mentally spin it as a positive for her. She can always twist things to work in her favor and to fall in line with her conceits about herself. Which is where a lot of the comedy in the early episodes comes from, is that the show, it starts off when some producer, whose name is literally Trash, Kuzu-san, decides that they're just gonna adapt some light novel, and they're gonna throw some young pretty girl on it, who happens to be around, whose face he's seen once, and fuck it, that'll be a success. What the fuck, who cares? The guys who are putting the show together, one of them, like, doesn't even know what a light novel is, but he hears it's all the rage with the kids, let's make a fucking anime out of it, That's the whole mindset, let's make a fucking anime out of it, who cares? And meanwhile, the light novel author, the guy who wrote the book that they're adapting, is one of my favorite gag characters in the show, sort of, because all along the way they are ruining this guy's vision. Like, he's written this light novel, he's a first-timer, he's always wanted an anime adaptation, and he's this quiet, reserved dude who just gets bullied into letting them adapt, like letting this clearly inept producer and this studio who's being worked you know, to the bone and doesn't really care about the source material at all, you know, adapt his project. And he's so visibly and audibly upset about it. Like, he hates what's happening, but at the same time, he's not good. Like, he's not a good writer. It's not a property that people are, like, gonna be offended that there was this shit anime adaptation of. You know, he's like some young, shitty writer who's a dime a dozen, who they only selected because they just wanted some light novel. Some fucking light novel that they could make into a fucking anime. And this guy, this poor fuck, you know, is like, he knows it. He knows he's not great, but at the same time, he's having to face the reality of his work just being ruined at the hands of this totally incompetent team, you know? And Chitose, who can't act, is the lead voice actress because they just picked her. And of course, they can't do anything about it. They can't just change her out halfway through production because they've come too far. So, you know, they just have to try to deal with it. And she gets a little better as she goes, you know, but they're just they're going along with it. Everyone's along for the ride. There's no brakes on this train. It's just gonna run right into the next train. It's a train wreck. And it's beautiful. And all this is occurring with all these other fun, you know, voice actress characters. I like the sort of spectrum of personalities and places in life that they're at. Because you've got the young star, the 17-year-old girl whose mom was a voice actress and whose dad is in the industry, and she's just like born and bred voice actress girl. And she's pretty cynical about it all, but it doesn't matter because she gets the paychecks. You know, she's the big fucking deal who's gonna be rich off of voice acting. Then you've got the somewhat seasoned, like 20-something actress who's about trying to be an actual actress. Like, she actually cares about making a good product and really resents that she has to work on all this trash anime and do shit like swimsuit photo shoots and stuff. And she's like, I just wanted to be a fucking actress, you know? And it's part of what makes all this resonate so much with me is that, like, as a YouTuber, this kind of cynical thinking is deeply ingrained into my head, where I totally get, the actress girl, like, if I had to compare these to my friends or something, actress girl is my friend Endless Jess, who hates YouTube, who wants nothing to do with the culture of YouTube or the ways that you have to work your videos and try to trick people into watching them. He just wants to make art. He just wants to make his, you know, to do the things that he feels he was built to do. But in order to do that, you have to go through the artifice of all this other bullshit in order to become a YouTuber. And it's antithetical to the art he's trying to create, right? That's how this girl feels in this show. She just wants to be an artist, but, like, you know, the result of that, in order to get those roles you want, you have to do all this other dog shit. And for me, I fall in more with, like, the Chitose camp of my mind is so fucking warped that I just get excited at the idea of, like, haha, look, I can put a thumbnail on a video and it's automatically gonna get 100,000 views. Whoa! You know, like my video about Sword Art Online, like how to make a successful Sword Art Online video, where, like, the joke is that the title has Sword Art Online in it and there's a Kirito thumbnail and therefore it will get 50,000 views, and it did. That's the kind of worldview that I'm forced to live with. And that's why this show resonates with me so much. I live in that world. I live in that world where it doesn't fucking matter what it is. Just throw a fucking Kirito on it and you win. I win. Gah! You know, that's how I felt. That's legitimately how I felt when I won that bet. You remember, I made a bet. This video will get 30,000 to 50,000 views within 3 or 4 days. And it did. And I posted on Twitter, essentially, in so many words, I win. Gah! So, that's exactly, this is the life I'm living, you know. Obviously, I'm not lazy like Chitose. I actually work, and I find time to make actually creative things. If anything, I probably relate better to the 17-year-old girl who's a pro but just doesn't give a fuck because she knows that all this is bullshit, you know. And then you've got the two younger actresses who work with Chitose, one of whom, well, actually, they're newer actresses, I should say. One of them's actually the oldest member of the crew, and she was like about to give up because she's just never made a breakthrough until this show. Like, this show is actually for her and Chitose and Yae, who's the younger one, who this is also her big break. Like, this show is important. It is their actual big breakthrough role because they get to have the word main next to their name, and like that's another thing. Like, that's this industry, that's this world. It doesn't matter that the fucking show is an abomination. It doesn't matter that it's like not animated and no one likes it. What matters is for them that they get to say that they were the main girl. They were the heroine in this show, and that's enough. That's the credibility. That's all they need. If I had to relate that to somebody, like my brother Victor, who completed college a couple years ago to get his fucking BFA in film or whatever, and he has to like just make all these videos and shit just to be able to have a portfolio, to take a clip from it and put it in his reel and say, I've worked on a thing. Doesn't matter what the thing is. I've worked on a thing, so give me more work, please. Oh, man. This is turning into another big fucking rant one that might have to be its own video. But, because there's so much more to say about this show. It's really fucking good. I love that, so what happens over the course of this show? At first, it's mostly about this bitterly cynical world and, like, presenting how shit the production cycle is behind these kinds of shit anime. And then, where it goes from there is that it has to take the next step and say, well, this is how these cynical anime get created. This happens all the time. Shows come out, they don't do shit, nobody cares, they end up in the red. But where do you go from there? Because, in the end, you can't always skate by on just luck and hoping for the best, Sometimes these cynical projects work out, If you were a producer on the Asterisk War, your mindset was probably just like Kuzu, but you walked away with money, and therefore you could just do it all over again. It doesn't matter. You won. You did win. They didn't win in Girlish Number. They thought they were winning. They didn't win. They ended up in the red. And Kuzu has to go, reapproach his life and figure out what he's trying to do in this industry. And more importantly, Chitose, who is legitimately not talented, has really only gotten by on luck, and has not really capitalized on that luck, whereas her friends have both done a great job capitalizing on it. They've immediately tried to get to, audition, keep practicing, get more work. She hasn't. She's been bumming around, expecting everyone else to do it for her. And what finally makes her realize that she's being a total idiot is when a new young girl comes in who is just, in many ways, like, when I talked about Yuri on Ice with my brother, and I said how there was that younger guy who was basically the main character of Haikyuu, but displaced into this show, that's who this new girl is, who comes to their industry. She's the main character of a different show, a much more lighthearted and fun show where hard work and guts is the key, and the main character really cares and is trying as hard as they can to work their hardest and make it. And this girl enters this world of cynicism. But what happens is that for everyone else, she legitimately inspires them because she actually cares about this shitty anime they're making. She is the retarded child audience, she's like 16, so of course she doesn't have any fucking taste in the world. She's just watching this shitty anime, and she likes it for her own reasons, her own legitimate reasons, She loves Chitose's acting in the show because of the way that it gets better over the course of the show, that she was clearly shit at the beginning, but has this growth, and it gives a deeper meaning to the show for this character. This is fucking genius, by the way. This is a genius character detail that I really appreciate, because that's exactly how it is. When I fucking go online and I rag on Sword Art Online all day, all night, or something, there's always people who have really legit reasons for liking it, who have deep, thought-out reasons that they care about it, that I just will never relate to, And so that's what this girl sort of represents to me. And she you know, she cares so much about the show that everyone else is like, you know what? Maybe we will at least give this a shot. Like, yeah, we're working on a dumpster fire of a show, but at least we can try. At least we can put in the bare minimum amount of effort and, you know, and have some pride in the fact that we're working at least. But not Chitose, because Chitose's never been that person. She doesn't have that other mode that other people have, you know? Like, that young actress who's in everything, you know that she goes to other shows and cares and gives it her all and gives a, you know, a stunning performance and works with other professionals and not these idiots. You know, she does this job just because, like, whatever, the Skrilla, you know? She doesn't care about what the show actually is. But Chitose doesn't have that other mode. She has to learn about that. She has to learn about this, the mere idea of trying, of you know, doing anything. And so the last 4 episodes are sort of dedicated to that arc, bringing that out of Chitose and saying, like, hey, you know, as cynical as this industry may be, you still have to try. You still have to work. It's still a job. You know, you're not going to get by on pure luck forever, and you know, that rug's going to get pulled out from under you. And I think that's a good message as well. So yeah, great show all around. I will say the last 4 episodes are definitely slower. I understand why a lot of people don't like them as much. The production's not as good in those, especially episodes like 9 and 10 look kind of shit. But the overall look and feel of the show is phenomenal. I fucking adore the character designs and all the artwork. There's a million awesome facial expressions, particularly from Chitose and Yae. They've got oh my god, there's 1,000 adorable faces. It's up there with like Tsukuyomi Moon Phase as a show that is worth watching for facial expressions alone. But this one also has an amazing story. So yeah, it's just a delight to watch. I love the color palette. I love all the interesting hair tones and gradients that all look really good. Yeah, just awesome design work and great visuals all around. Dio Media, great job. So, and a first-time director, too. A guy who's never directed anything before, according to his Mal page. So, great job to him, keeping this fucking production together, at least for the most part, and doing a great job. Is there anything else I need to say? Chitose is my waifu, best girl all years. I guess that's it for now. Maybe I'll say something about it in the future.